Hey, how's it going? In this video, I'm going to talk about planning an addition. How do I get started with building an addition? I want more space. Well, I don't know. I don't know what to do. You can do it. Even if you've never done it before, like ever, you can do it. And you can screw up and it'll be okay, and you can do it over and it'll be great. First step when you're planning an addition, list out all the family members in your household. And then next to them, list out any problems they have with the current house, and also talk about some of the wants they have and also some of the needs. Some family members may actually have real needs you have to accommodate when you're building an addition, and you're going to want to have all those listed out. After you've listed each family member, go ahead and prioritize that list for what's most important to what's least important. Creating this list is really going to help you clearly identify everything you're trying to accomplish in the project and make sure that you're focused in on the absolute most important parts of building your addition. After you have that list, it might be helpful to think about the future and what might be coming down the road. If you are going to be living in a certain way in 10 years, in 15 years, you're going to want to think about how your family is going to change going forward and make sure this addition still fits with that master plan. And lastly, talk to friends and family. They may have built additions, see what their feedback is, and really start to hone in on what might be most important. Part 2, I really want to talk about recouping value and thinking about your home in terms of a permanent thing on this planet that has intrinsic value that maybe you don't want to upset in creating an addition that might be too personalized for you. The first question you should ask is, should you move or should you improve? It may not always make sense to build an addition if you have zoning laws that are super strict or a building site that just doesn't have the room. Maybe moving to a different house might be a better option, and this is definitely the time to start to consider that. Also, look around in your neighborhood. In terms of thinking about your house's value, what are the other people in your neighborhood doing to their house? If you see a bunch of people adding on, it's probably not a bad idea to add on yourself. But if most of the houses in your area pretty much stay stagnant and stay the same, you might be creating a situation where you won't be able to recoup that investment back out of your house if you choose to sell. Also, when planning your addition, try not to make it too customized to exactly what you would want. Sometimes it's tempting to make the stone tile bathroom in all black because you really liked black that year, but in terms of reselling your house, that may actually detract from the value, and that's certainly not what you want. Also, when building an addition, make sure you keep all of your receipts. Capital gains tax will come back to bite you if you sell, and you can recoup a lot of that by showing the costs, the original costs you used to build your addition. And thinking about each room that you're adding onto your house, try and realize that each room has its own value in and of itself, and they have different cost levels per square foot, and they have different resale value when you sell. So for instance, putting a garage onto your house is not very expensive per square foot, but you'll only get about 30% of that value back out of your house, whereas a bathroom is at least 40% more costly than regular living space, and it also may not get you your value back out of your house if the houses in your area all have a certain number of bedrooms or bathrooms and you add on another bathroom. You may not be able to see that value. Whereas a kitchen, generally you can take 120% of the value of your investment of building the kitchen and get that back out in resale value. Which room you're building onto your house really matters in terms of the value that you could get back out of it. Try to think about rooms that could have multi-purposes. So for instance, you're building a home office, but you make sure to design in features that make it be a good bedroom. For instance, a closet. Or you have a very large bedroom that you need that could be a living room or could be a good office. So try and think about, multi-purpose rooms in your addition plan. Part 3, you got to think about how you're going to pay for this. You want to think about what it's going to cost to build the addition. And the best way to do that is to either find a general number per square foot in your area,
Or the best way is to just go out and get real quotes from contractors. And I know that's hard before you get a design, but do your best to find out what their labor rate is or what a per project cost would be per square foot, and that'll give you a good head start on how to estimate those costs.
It's always hard to pay for something, especially a project this large. There are lots of options. Make sure you do your research. I couldn't possibly list all of them here. You can refinance your house, you can get a home equity line, you can get a home equity loan, you can get a construction loan, you can borrow money from friends, you can sell your left kidney, or your right kidney for that matter. I can't possibly speak to all of them and what works for your situation, but do your homework. There are a lot of options out there that could really benefit you when considering building an addition. In this part, I want to talk about the labor involved with building an addition. Some of the things to think about are, do I want to do any of the labor? And if you do, it might be helpful to run down these questions when you're thinking about each individual task that you might be willing to tackle yourself. First one is, do I really want to do this? Next, am I able to do this task successfully and to a quality that I really feel comfortable with? Do I have the time to do this task? Do I have the tools to accomplish this task? Can I save enough money doing it myself to justify doing the task? How will this affect my household and my role in the family? If you're spending a lot of time doing this task and you're being taken away from your family, how is that going to affect you and them? Is there some other benefit to doing it yourself? For instance, you have a certain design aesthetic that you couldn't translate well enough to someone, or you have ideas that you want to put in place but you can't quite communicate them and you know it would be quicker to just do it yourself. Maybe that's something you want to think about. This next part, we need to talk about design. When it comes to design, there are lots of different options. Certainly you can design something yourself and you may have the type of eye that can really pull that off well, and you may not. And there's certainly no harm in trying. And it's also worthwhile trying to design it yourself because it really helps you mentally step into the place before you ever start building. And sometimes when you hire somebody and say, please come up with a design for me, they give you the design, you're like, oh, that's cool, and you're wowed by the graphics and how it looks and everything, but you haven't actually stepped into the space mentally to think, oh, that's totally not going to work. Take it on yourself, design it, play around with it, have fun with it, and really step in there mentally. It also really helps because you're able to hand something to a designer when you've either given up or you're just like, I can't quite come up with what I want. You're able to hand something to a designer and say, this is what I'm thinking. And they'll be able to run with that so much faster. There are lots of people involved in design and lots of design as part of an addition. You know, there are engineers, mechanical, civil, electrical. There are architects. There's so many different people that are highly specialized. Landscape designers, interior designers, kitchen and bath designers. Think about the parts of your addition that you want absolutely perfect and the parts that you can afford, and think about hiring people to do those specific tasks and then maybe taking on some of the things that you care less about. The next part I want to talk about the legal aspects of building an addition. You really need to think about zoning. Where you are, there are going to be regulations. Your state may have codes. Your fire district may have codes. Your town is going to have zoning codes. Make sure you do your homework. And that's maybe a good place to start, is find out what's required beforehand, and even if it's possible, before you invest too much time and effort into everything else. The next part I want to talk about site planning. Obviously, the place where your house is sitting is critical to thinking about designing an addition. Sun, wind, cars, and neighbors, right? So where is the sun? Think about how you're going to be in your space during what times of the day and where the sun is going to be during those times. That is critical to understanding the feeling of the room in terms of color temperature, but also sunlight and heat and just how you like to use your space. You wouldn't put a sunroom on the north side of your house. You have to think about that. You would. But you also want to think about your dining room. Or if you're making a breakfast nook, do you really want that on the west side of your house where it's going to be dark in the morning? So make sure you take into account the position of the sun and what the purpose of the room is that you're using and how it'll feel during those times. Take into account wind. Wind is going to come through and next to and over top of your site. And if you plan on having windows open during this certain time of day, during this certain season, make sure that you don't have an obnoxious amount of wind coming through. Think about cars around your site. Where are they driving? What times of day? What windows do you want facing the road versus what windows do you want not facing the road? And what are the purposes of those rooms? Think about the slope of your property. If you have an intense slope, building on the top side means totally different things than building on the bottom side. So really think about how you can use the slope of your site to your advantage and creating extra spaces maybe for storage or extra spaces that you wouldn't have been able to on other sides. And then when it comes down to designing, really think about your site and may even have to do some research by calling DigSafe. Find out where are the buried electrical lines, telephone lines, gas lines, where's the septic system, where are the water pipes, where are the sewer pipes if you're on town sewer, and where's your wellhead if you have a drilled well. So think about all of those things and draw them into your design from the beginning because those matter the most when you consider an addition that's going to cause you to break ground and have to expand outward into your yard or into your land. Also think about paved areas or really expensive landscaped areas. You don't want to have to tear apart something that was really expensive to create. The next section, I want to talk about the existing house. Obviously, this is the most important part. It's what exists now. It's what's not working out for you. So there's a lot of things to think about considering your current living space. First, start to think about the internal flow of your house. You enter. You're in what? A mudroom, a kitchen, a living room. You go to where? I go right to the kitchen. I go right to the pantry. I go right to the bedroom. I go right to the office. Think about how you use your house, and then think about how your guests use your house, and ideally what you would like out of that flow. Think about your morning routine. You get up, you walk all the way across the house to the other end of the house to go to the bathroom to take a shower, to walk all the way back to this side to go to the closet, to then get out and go all the way to the kitchen downstairs. Think about the internal flow of your house and how each family member uses it, and if there are ways to improve that flow to solve some of your needs. Consider the key rooms in your house that are really expensive to change. Kitchens, bathrooms, laundry rooms. Those all have plumbing. They have gas lines. They have big 220-volt electrical lines. Those are really expensive to change. So try to think about those in terms of this won't change, but what else can? My living room space. Can I split it into 2 bedrooms? Can I remove a wall in between the living room and the dining room and make a bigger open space? Can I think about combining 2 bedrooms into a living room and then doing something over the garage? Can I change the attic? There are lots of things to think about with the current rooms in your house, but try to remember the rooms that really are expensive to change. The other really important thing to do is locate all of your bearing walls. What that means is the load of your house, either your second story, your attic, your roof, any snow on your roof, the load comes down through the structure in different places and in different ways in a lot of different houses. You need to identify the bearing walls. That will help really steer your design and what you can change and what you feel comfortable changing and what you can't. Take a hard look at your house and think about ways to add on that don't require breaking ground, that don't require putting in a foundation, putting in footings, backfilling, all of the things associated with expanding outward into your yard. Try and think about ways you can add onto your house without doing that. Some of those ways are bump outs. So a little kitchen nook that just bumps out a little bit, that adds just a little bit of space. Maybe you can change your attic space to be more useful living space. Sometimes in cape houses you have knee walls. Consider putting in dormers, making an additional space inside current rooms. Consider a shed dormer on a cape style house to give you a full height wall the entire length. Think about converting garage space. If you have a current garage that you're underutilizing, think about converting that to living space and parking outside. It might be cheaper to build a garage down the road if you have an immediate need for living space and just convert your garage. So the next part I want to talk about is drawing it out. And arguably the most fun part, and the part that everybody skips to, is just drawing it out. Totally fine. Do it. Draw it out. You start off by measuring your current house. Get the width, get the length, get every L, every bump out, every section, and measure it all out as accurately as you can. Also, think about the foundation. Sometimes the siding will come down and the foundation will actually be set in a little bit. Try and get that measurement because that is an important measurement for when you're adding to an existing wall. Try and measure everything you can. So you get the width and height, start to get your walls, and start from a corner and work your way around the house. So you start from the corner and you work your way down the wall, and if you hit a door, measure the door. This door starts at 72 inches from the corner. Got it. Then measure the next piece. Maybe it's a window. Measure from the corner to the window. That window is at 112. Okay, got it. And then measure inside the inside corner. Okay, bam. That way you eliminate any sort of measurement creep where maybe you were a quarter inch off here and then maybe a quarter inch there and a quarter inch there, and over 40 measurings you're like a foot off. Try and measure from the same point all the way down a wall, get all of the features, and then move on from that corner, measure down, and then measure inside walls. Measure where the doors are on the wall, from the inside corner to the door. Measure where your windows are. Measure the height from the bottom of the window to the floor. If it's an odd-sized window, measure from the top to the ceiling. Measure your ceiling heights. Maybe they're odd heights. Measure your fixtures. Where are the fixtures? Where's the toilet? And how far is it away from the wall? And how much space would you need in front? And start to think about all of those things and get them in the plan while you're drawing it out. Drawing your existing house as accurately as possible is going to be super critical when you start to design what you want to build. And then think about your existing house and where you just can't build, right? So think about your lot and where the septic system is. You can't build there. Shade it out in your design. Make sure you mark cannot build here, cannot build here, cannot build here. Mark the places where you don't want to build. I'm facing the neighbors there. I'm facing the road here. I'm on the north side of the house. I don't want to put a living room there. I shade those sections out, and it really narrows down the place where you can build, and that's your starting place. And then start to plan each room. You know, if you're building a home office, what are the key features of that home office that you need to keep in mind? If you're putting in a kitchen, you know, or you're remodeling a kitchen but you're expanding it, where are the plumbing pipes? You know, you put a sink on the outside wall, that plumbing needs to be somewhere, and how are you going to handle that? If you're putting in bedrooms, where's the closet going to go? If you're putting in bathrooms, do I have storage space? Does the toilet have enough room in front of it? These are all things that you need to consider in your design, which I couldn't possibly help you in this one video with every caveat for all of those different design elements. That really takes just a lot of research and a lot of planning, and just sometimes your own intuitive sense of how a house fits together. So the last part is really thinking about the superstructure of the house, and that's how those loads come down through. You know, you're putting a bump out. Does it have enough to support that bump out with, you know, not digging into the ground? Or are you putting an addition, you know, onto soft soil? What are you going to need for that? If you're building on an upper story, does the current structure have enough strength to hold all that weight up above it? You know, it wasn't originally designed for that. If you're putting on a dormer, does the structure have the ability to bring that weight down through it? And these are really hard things to figure out. And, you know, you can easily do the research to figure out how to do the math, and then do the math, and then you're golden. That's a lot of work, but it's doable. This is also a great time to pull in a structural engineer. Be like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Am I crazy? You know, I want 40-foot span. I don't want any posts. That's how I want my addition. Well, the structural engineer will tell you anything is possible, and it is. So dream big. Anything is possible with enough money. So You bring it to the structural engineer, he's going to tell you, yeah, sure, those beams are going to be more than your whole addition. So maybe start out thinking about those things in mind and looking up span tables and just getting a rough idea like, okay, I want a 20-foot span. What kind of lumber is going to span 20 feet? I can tell you right now, there's no dimensional lumber that will span 20 feet all on its own. Maybe 2x12s, 12 on center. But you'd still have deflection that wouldn't feel comfortable. So, you know, just do a little research and you can find out a lot of information. So that's a quick video kind of talking about some of the things involved when you're planning an addition. I couldn't possibly cover everything, but I didn't feel right putting out all of these addition videos without talking about this major part, which is, how do I start? How do I get started with building an addition? Like, I want more space. Well, I don't know. I don't know what to do. So I wanted to put this together as just a quick outline to help you at least target some of the next steps. So down in the description, I'll have bullet points and they'll link directly to the time in this video talking about the individual items that I went over. And I hope that this gives you the confidence to want to tackle some of these things yourself. You know, that's what my entire channel is about. I want to put stuff out there and just show people, yeah, you can do this. You can do it. Even if you've never done it before, like ever, you can do it. And you can screw up and it'll be okay, and you can do it over and it'll be great. And that's what this channel is about. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. It helps out tremendously. There's also a way to like click it and make sure you get every email or every notification. Do that too. I don't remember how to do that. Otherwise I would say, oh, here's this thing and do this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.